I just made one small change to one video and my views tripled in minutes. And not only am I going to tell you that, but I'm going to tell you some big lessons that I've learned in the last year of doing YouTube that are going to change the channel going forward, and you may want to implement for your channel as well. The most important change is the title and thumbnail. I recently uploaded a video in my $1,000 challenge series where I try to sell $1,000 of video games in just a few hours. In this series, I typically get anywhere between 6,000 and 10,000 views or so on a video. I uploaded a thumbnail that I thought would work really well. People seem to like seeing myself in the thumbnail with the game room, and it did pretty well. But then I sent the thumbnail idea and the video to my friends Dan and Elisa at JRPG Life, and they said try this one instead. And we uploaded a thumbnail about reselling and how the reseller booths are dying. Just by changing that thumbnail, just by changing the title, the views tripled in 20 minutes. And then later that night, I went from getting about 100 or 200 views an hour to getting 600 views per hour. And the video has gone on to be one of the most successful videos on the channel. The YouTube algorithm is constantly putting our stuff out there and trying to find an audience for it. And this particular thumbnail spoke to something in my audience. But to better understand titles and thumbnails, let's go to the supermarket. So let's say you're having tacos for dinner and you need to get some beans and rice.
Now look at all of these different cans of beans. All of them have basically the same thing in them, but how do you know which one to get? Well, they all have different labels, and every single label has something different about it that's trying to entice me to buy. Every single one of these labels was taken not to be art or to express something. It was taken with one sole purpose, which is to get me to make a purchase. It's the same thing with your titles and thumbnails. You have to be able to make stuff that entices your audience to want to click on your video, and that depends on your title and thumbnail being a label that they would want to click on.
So when I get onto YouTube and I'm looking at all of these different titles and thumbnails, to me it's like looking at a bunch of different cans of food with different labels on them. I have found that there are 3 elements that make for a good title and thumbnail. The first thing that I've learned about good titles and thumbnails are titles and thumbnails that provoke curiosity. When you have a title and thumbnail that tells everybody everything that they need to know, they don't have a reason to click. Rather than saying something like, I found a grail out in the wild, you should say something like, you won't believe what I found. But even more than curiosity are titles and thumbnails that speak to your audience's pain points. In the biggest video on my channel, we highlighted a small section of the video where we talked about disc rot, which is where your CD-based games are deteriorating over time. The second one taps into people's anger over resellers, because nobody likes resellers. The next lessons learned revolve around the look of the thumbnail. There should be no more than 3 words in a thumbnail, ideally no words in a thumbnail, because those words get lost in the size of the thumbnail when people are scrolling through on their phone. As far as the titles themselves, no more than 8 words, but certainly no more than 50 characters, because anything more than 50 characters, YouTube cuts it off when you're scrolling. When it comes to the image of the thumbnail, I'm noticing that brighter is better. More colors, more contrast, more saturation. So this affects the channel because going forward, I'm going to be A/B testing different thumbnails, and so you may see an upload where one day you go, wait, where was the video that I thought I saw yesterday? It had one thumbnail and today it has another. That might be because I'm trying out different things to see if I can repeat the idea of changing title and thumbnail, getting more people to be interested in what's there. So what about short form content? About a year ago, everyone was saying you gotta do shorts because you would upload a short and you'd get tens of thousands of views, hundreds of thousands of views. In one case, one of my shorts got over 3 million views, which is insane. And the old rules of YouTube were, hey, cool, if you get subscribers, that's the sign of success on your channel. But the rules have shifted, and the rules now aren't really about subscribers, because you can get a lot of subscribers on shorts, but what I'm finding is that a lot of those shorts subscribers aren't necessarily coming over to the long form content. The reason that's important to me is because I want people to engage and be participating in the channel and the community a little bit more. And also my heart is in storytelling, and I feel like I'm a better storyteller in long form content. I like how shorts push me to tell better stories with less time. It's a double-edged sword. I was talking with Curtis from Pixel Game Squad, and he was saying, you know, going viral right now is actually not great for a channel, because you blow up, maybe you get, say, like a few thousand subscribers from one video, and you upload your next video, and not many of those subscribers come back. But I see this with channels where they get tons of subscribers from their short form content, and then they post a long form video and it gets just a small fraction of what their subscriber base is. And it can be a really frustrating thing as a creator, because you're going, who's watching my stuff and what do they want to watch? The people who I think do the shorts the best are, for me, are JRPG Life, because their shorts content is not stuff that would fit into their long form content, and they're really funny. Dan and I were talking and he said you should focus more on skits and your writing with short form content, and I'm inclined to agree that it's more fun to do that kind of stuff and to hopefully have like a comedic payoff, and it speaks to my interest more creatively as well. In fact, with short form content, I'm really curious about how much YouTube is actually incentivized to keep pouring resources into it. Jen Jager was talking on her channel about how Facebook and Meta did some research, and they were looking at how in short form content with Reels that they were having a hard time monetizing everything that was coming in and making more money on the short form content the way that they can on long form content. And even TikTok, which was famous for 1 minute long videos, has extended the length of their videos to 5 or I think even 10 minutes long. I have a TikTok, but I don't know, it's not where my heart is. So with long form content being where my passion, where my heart is, let me tell you some things I've learned as an editor in the past year. First, let's talk about what an editor is. One aspect of being an editor is having a technical skill set, knowing how to use effects, transitions, color correction, audio mixing, all of the technical stuff that you need to make your videos look a little more polished. And I poured some money and resources into some of my editing tool bag to make my stuff a little sharper, a little cleaner. That's not the most important thing of being an editor. The most important part of being an editor is step 2, and this is the one that people I think really struggle with, and that is editors are storytellers. A good editor can make clips come together in a way that's somewhat coherent and looks good. A great editor tells a meaningful story. What constitutes great storytelling? Well, things like emotion, suspense, tension, a feeling of catharsis, a feeling of connection to what you're watching, relating to what's there. And some of that is also just retention hacks. One of the biggest pitfalls I see with YouTube channels is when they do stuff like this. What's up, guys? I'm Retro Roundhouse 91, and this is my channel. I'm so glad you're here. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. You know I'm retro because I got a bunch of games behind me. And if this is your first time here, let me tell you a little bit about the channel. Now, today we're gonna get into the 5 Nintendo 64 games that you need to have that are under $20 because everything's so expensive now, and I'm gonna help you out. If you spend a minute of your time giving me context, telling me what you're gonna do, telling me to like and subscribe, telling me if you're first time, welcome, and all that stuff, I'm like, skip. Once you click, I want the video to begin. Vigilante 8 is one of the best N64 games you can get for 20 bucks or less right now. I'm gonna tell you more about this game, plus 4 others that won't break the bank for your N64 collection. Let's get into it. One of the biggest distinguishers of YouTube content versus, say, traditional TV content is YouTube content has to start with a payoff and a hook immediately. And usually giving a bunch of intro and context doesn't help with that. Which brings up the theme song. People love the theme song. I love the theme song. I've re-edited some of the footage at the beginning of the theme song because I still love it. It'll still show up from time to time, but I also don't, I want it to be part of the storytelling and not just a way to have more context. But I also love it. I'm still torn about it. I don't know. And your love of it has made me feel joy. An excellent storyteller on YouTube is Caleb, aka Phoenix Resale, and evidence of that is his GameCube Gambit series. The whole tagline of the series was,
how fun would it be to go back and attempt to achieve my childhood dreams of owning a collection of GameCube games today as a 26, almost 27-year-old man.
All of us can relate to the idea as kids of being like, man, I would have loved to have had like a big game collection, and here I am as an adult. There's an emotionally compelling element of it. There is tension in him finding these games that some of which are so impossible to find. He had a clear goal and a task, and there was a story arc that went over the whole thing that was so compelling that when he sold a lot of the collection at the end of the series, people felt not just like, good for you, you can do whatever you want, it's your stuff. They felt betrayed. It was emotionally like, how dare you? The reason we felt that as an audience was because we felt emotionally connected to the storytelling that was there. And in the same way, I'm looking at my content going, is there an overarching storyline that I can feed this into? I'm wondering what yours is on your channel and what you would say for you. Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear it. So in the last year, I have learned lessons about thumbnails, about YouTube shorts, about how to be a better storyteller and editor. And the fourth one is really a reinforced point that I've known before but have experienced the value of, and that's having collaborators on your channel. We need each other. We need to get feedback from one another on our content. Not everything we make is great. In fact, each video that we make should be a little better than the one before it because we're learning a new skill. Hopefully you're not just putting out the same thing over and over again, but you're pushing yourself. And one of the best ways to push yourself is to have people in your corner who aren't afraid to hit hard on the things that need to be hit hard about. I recently asked someone to share their opinion about my channel, and they said, I like your editing and your content, but there's just too much variety. I don't know what I'm gonna click on when I click on your channel. If I'm gonna get a game review thing like Garbage or Gold, or a game hunting, or a game vending, it's a little too scattershot. Now, feedback like that is super helpful, but it doesn't happen without people who aren't afraid to be honest with you. And my biggest collaborators are the channel JRPG Life. Dan and Elisa have been instrumental in the growth and stability of this channel. Our agreement has worked out to, I help them with some editing on their channel. They'll sometimes send me story concepts or ideas, or I'll just outright do a whole video for them. And they design and help me come up with titles and thumbnails for my videos that are compelling. And the greatest evidence of this is it was their idea to change the title and thumbnail of the one video that ended up really popping off and is now sitting at over 40,000 views. But also, keep your ego down. You need people to say your stuff's not very good, because when people are just yes men and yes women all around you, all it's doing is maybe keeping you stagnant. You need people who are going to push you creatively and otherwise to make the best stuff you can possibly make. And it's super rewarding when it comes together. One of the ways you can get started on collaborating is joining my Patreon. Patrons at the $7 a month level can submit quarterly different things that they have made, whether it's songs or YouTube videos or otherwise. And I give really honest critiques and opinions of your stuff. And we all talk about it as a group, and hopefully it gives you feedback that helps your stuff grow. I'd invite you to check it out. The link's in the description. So those are 4 of the biggest lessons I've learned that are going to affect the channel going forward, but they ultimately remind me of something really critically important. And that is having the trait of being adaptable really is essential if you want to stick around. These 4 things that I've learned could end up being obliterated tomorrow. The rules change, the algorithms change, the laws come in and change. There's different things that YouTube is doing right now, supposedly to de-incentivize AI-driven platforms and channels and videos in order to focus more on human stuff. But that could change tomorrow too. The world is constantly in a state of disruption. Just when you think everything's okay, things get flipped on their head. That's a normal part of being a human being. And for some of us, we're like tired, we're stubborn, we're burnt out. Any number of factors. We have pride in what we've made. On the old rules, I figured it out and I was on top. On the new rules, I'm at the very bottom. One of the things that I've learned the most is that I can complain about the way that the game is played, or I can get in and actually just play the game. I can't fix or change when things change and get flipped on their head. What I can do is I can figure out how to make the most of those changes as they come. And that requires a part of me inside to be really flexible. But even with all of this stuff, no matter what you make, no matter who you make it for, no matter what rules you follow, no matter what you agree with or disagree with what me or anyone else says, making content here on YouTube, the most important thing above all of this is don't forget to be yourself. There are so many other channels making so much content that we might be influenced or inspired by, but resist the temptation to try and be them. Make your own content, give your own opinions, talk about how you feel about things. People can smell if something is fake from a mile away. And if they feel like what they are watching is manufactured, too much of a persona and not enough of a real person, I think that people eventually move on. Why be disingenuous to who you are? When you're being yourself, what you're making from that point forward isn't content, it's art. And that's the stuff that even if you don't get a lot of views on it, you can at least stand by it with a measure of pride that you made something beautiful, or you made something great, or you made something honest. And I hope that as you make content, you find yourselves adapting, changing, shifting, doing things that help you to make your authentic voice heard as loud as can be. So what are the biggest lessons that you've learned? Leave a comment below, and I can't wait to see what you make. Let's all make it a great 2024. Take care.